Robyn's money from her house paid family debts.
You've been lied to about Janelle's role in the family finances, and Cody knows it. The financial obligations still weren't settled.
The debts hadn't been paid, and they had to be paid. So I was trying to straighten out a mess that I was handed by Janelle, because she had a different perspective.
Cody remarked about Janelle during a recent Sister Wives tell-all, referring to unresolved issues within the family's finances. So I was trying to straighten out a mess that I was handed by Janelle. He followed it up with, because she had a different perspective before her and I broke up about how things should be. This phrasing suggests Cody is implying Janelle somehow mismanaged the finances or left him with unresolved debt.
The problem is Coyote Pass isn't paid off.
However, it's important to note that the only shared debt between Cody and Janelle appears to have been the Coyote Pass property.
Somewhere and do something different. I want my value of the property, and I'd like to recoup some of the money I put into Robyn's house.
Cody's remarks seem to reflect frustration that Janelle chose to walk away from their relationship and their financial entanglement without absorbing a portion of his and Robyn's obligations. It's plausible that Cody and Robyn's house, being the largest family asset, was leveraged in some way. It's also unlikely that either of them consulted the broader family before taking on business debt or opening lines of credit.
I have money and I've spent it on things too.
Janelle's push to pay off Coyote Pass so she could build on it further indicates she still viewed the family fund as a collective resource, not as something primarily benefiting Cody and Robyn.
Robyn's money from her house paid family debts.
Janelle stated that the fund had enough money to cover Coyote Pass and that it had returned to the same level it was when Robyn's house was purchased. This comparison suggests Janelle's frustration stemmed from the way financial priorities had shifted, especially when there was ample opportunity to support her goals, yet funds had been previously used for Robyn's home.
I have a bunch of old debt that's in collections from my divorce.
There have also been long-standing concerns about Robyn's financial habits, including accumulating credit card debt and delaying bill payments. It's possible that when Cody referred to being blindsided by the debt, he was only just becoming aware of the scale of it, and shifted the blame to Janelle, who was functioning more as a bookkeeper than a financial decision-maker. Importantly, he never specified whose debt it actually was, only that Janelle hadn't kept up with it. Given the known financial separation, Christine had already left and Mary was paying for certain things out of her own pocket, like tuition. It seems clear that the debts weren't coming from them, which narrows the source significantly.
Because Cody was always telling everybody that I was somehow calling the shots on the money.
The idea that Janelle controlled the money is a serious misrepresentation.
And I'm like, dude, if you want to go all the way back, and I have all those records because I'm the bookkeeper.
Her role was that of a bookkeeper. She recorded and tracked financial data provided to her. She had insight into the numbers, but no authority over the financial decisions being made. Cody's complaints suggest a misunderstanding or willful ignorance of this distinction.
Like, it makes me sick thinking that I have to bring a lawyer into this.
Mary's involvement may have also been affected by this dynamic. If she was asked to justify her contributions after Janelle's departure, it may have been part of Cody's broader effort to reassert financial control and demand proof of loyalty. He could have even claimed that Janelle questioned Mary's participation, using it as leverage. Robyn, meanwhile, may have positioned herself as a neutral party, offering to mediate or translate for Cody, while quietly reinforcing the division between Mary and Janelle.
I paid for one of the lots solely myself.
In the end, it seems likely that Janelle pushed back on being held responsible for financial issues that were not hers. If she reviewed the financials and recognized that the bulk of the debt belonged to Robyn, it would make sense that she refused to treat it as a shared obligation. The family fund had been used repeatedly to cover Robyn's expenses, and Janelle appears to have finally drawn a line. Cody Brown didn't lose a wife, he lost control, and this speech proves it.
That's why I'm angry!
Ah yes, the unforgettable knife in the kidneys moment.
And that's the reason I'm angry. That's the reason I'm pissed off. Is because
one line really sticks, and that's why I'm angry. That's why I'm pissed off. It feels like he stumbles onto a justification that almost makes sense and then seizes it with full theatrical flair. But it's obvious the real issue isn't what he's saying, it's the fact that he's lost control over Christine. His ego is bruised, his authority undermined, and he's spiraling because someone dared to walk away from him.
You never tried to have a really good relationship with these other people.
The whole, she didn't try hard enough with the family excuse, that's just smoke and mirrors, a last-ditch attempt to make himself look righteous instead of rejected. It's as if, mid-rant, a little light bulb went off. Wait, I can say I'm mad because she was a bad sister wife. That makes me look noble and loyal to the family. Genius. Say it again, but louder.
She's treated you like dirt from the very beginning.
You can see him pivot to this narrative in real time, and it's hard to watch without cringing.
This ain't my fault. You did this, is what I feel like.
This is a textbook example of Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Instead of admitting he's angry because he feels humiliated, he frames it as moral outrage. I had no choice but to get angry. She's the one who wronged everyone. The performance doesn't stop there.
Technically, till Christine is physical with another man, she's not divorced.
Despite knowing for weeks that Christine was leaving, his biggest concern wasn't the family. It was the imaginary scenario where she meets another man and somehow takes his money. The melodrama is exhausting. His entire kidney speech is so overacted and self-indulgent, it borders on parody.
I never tried. I never did.
And meanwhile, Christine had apologized on camera numerous times for her past behavior. Even after moving to Flagstaff, she continued to extend olive branches.
Why can't you be friends? Why can't you be buddies?
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have a relationship with them again?
But that never seemed to matter.
The conversation itself felt suspiciously staged.
When Robyn asked if they could still be friends, it opened the door for him to launch into his rehearsed tirade. He even paused dramatically in front of Christine, posture tense, as if trying to intimidate her. The look on her face was pure shock.
And that's the reason I'm angry.
Watching him over the past few seasons has been like watching someone unravel in slow motion. His grip on reality seems increasingly loose, and his narcissism grows louder with every episode. At this point, it's unclear whether he even realizes how much vitriol he's spewing, or if he genuinely believes his own story. If you think this is a love story, you're being lied to. The gaze that wouldn't end.
Well, you don't want to go too long without me because I don't want some guy thinking you're a single mom.
According to Cody, he was in church when he first saw Robyn sitting alone. Their eyes met, and he couldn't look away. He held her gaze and kept holding it until she finally looked away. Then came his internal monologue. Oh, that was probably inappropriate. She's probably married.
It is not really appropriate for a married man to have a long courtship.
The irony is staggering. It was probably inappropriate because she might be married, despite the fact that he was already married to 3 women. Somehow, her potential marital status was the concern.
Anyway, that was a great memory.
And then, incredibly, he gets emotional telling the story, as if it's some grand, tragic love saga. He treats that moment of prolonged eye contact like it's sacred. Meanwhile, one might argue his time would have been better spent valuing the family he already had.
You should look into her. She's cute.
Then how did it go from that to the courtship?
There's also the timing to consider. This supposed love at first sight moment. Did it happen before or after he thoroughly vetted her? Because the way it's told, it sounds more like infatuation than spiritual discernment. The entire narrative frames polygamy less as a consensual lifestyle and more as a scenario where the women are sidelined. While interpretations vary, there are respectful ways to introduce a new wife into a plural marriage. This story, however, blurs the line between courtship and emotional infidelity, yet it's rarely acknowledged as such. Additionally, the lightning bolt in church anecdote doesn't seem to originate with Robyn.
It was weird because
I made eye contact with her.
Christine has mentioned a similar story in the past, and Robyn once mocked that exact phrasing during a dinner scene.
Like a bolt of lightning? Yeah, straight up. That's what I think is so funny.
Cody's effort to recast his connection with Robyn as fated love appears increasingly exaggerated, possibly an attempt to compensate for deeper issues in the relationship.
Chase kissing little church kisses.
Robyn says they only shared church kisses, but the footage tells a very different story. Robyn has insisted that she and Cody kept things strictly modest during their courtship, claiming they only shared church kisses. But that assertion doesn't quite hold up.
I found out that Cody sealed the engagement with a kiss, and I freaked
Footage from the day Truly was born shows the two of them kissing in private. And this was before they were married. So much for the claim of restraint.
I'm wondering if I should go home, change my clothes, get your stuff.
That same day, Christine was in labor and Cody left, saying he needed a change of clothes. But when he got home, he disappeared for several minutes. The crew eventually found him in a room with Robyn kissing her. While one wife was giving birth, the other was getting private time. And no, it wasn't a polite church-style kiss either. There's also the matter of Cody's weekly 10-hour drives just to see Robyn during their courtship. That kind of effort doesn't usually come with a PG-rated payoff. It stretches belief to think those visits were limited to platonic interaction. The claim that nothing intimate happened before marriage doesn't line up with what was shown or what has been described.
I want to talk about you actually saying that she has to sleep with somebody else to technically, yeah.
And then there's Robyn's take that you're not divorced until you've had sex with someone else. An oddly specific belief, especially coming from someone so focused on appearing modest and traditional.
We were going to work together as a team to raise this family.
From the beginning, there seemed to be an unspoken assumption that Cody would court any future wives the same way he had before, with fairness and clarity. But expectations weren't clearly communicated, and the dynamic shifted. The original wives were busy raising children, and that left room for behavior that didn't align with the values being publicly presented. They say Christine isn't really divorced until she sleeps with someone else. Throughout season 17, Christine's departure from Cody became a central focus, and unsurprisingly, Robyn had plenty to say.
And said, hey, we're divorced. Would they even allow us a divorce?
Usually, you have to go ask for a divorce.
According to Robyn, Christine wasn't technically divorced unless she became physically involved with another man. In her words, intimacy was what sealed the deal. Yet this raises an obvious question.
I was a single mom. I had 3 kids, 10 on down. My divorce had really shook me.
Robyn herself considered her previous marriage over before marrying Cody. So, by her own logic, what does that mean? That she wasn't really divorced until she was with Cody? That doesn't seem to be the standard she applied to herself. Robyn didn't have a temple wedding to Cody because she was pregnant. She was never sealed to her first husband, Preston, in the eyes of the LDS Church or under the AUB. Her first marriage was strictly legal, and it ended with a legal divorce. Cody was her first husband in the faith.
I'm going to encourage you to live plural marriage again.
Her suggestion that Christine wouldn't be divorced until she had sex with someone else was both inaccurate and manipulative.
In our church, you do have to go through channels to be released, to be divorced.
If Christine didn't receive a formal church release from Cody and later remarried, then in certain interpretations of their belief system, she might not be spiritually free. She might not be considered a queen in the afterlife, just another spiritual servant bound to Cody's eternal household. But this line of reasoning was never applied to Robyn, whose own situation didn't follow any consistent doctrine either.
That technically breaks it.
It came off less like concern for religious accuracy and more like a strategic attempt to guilt Christine into staying or to cast doubt on her freedom to move forward. The implication seemed to be that Christine was too old to find someone new or too scared to start over.
I am willing to fake being in love with Mary, doing my duties as a husband.
It was similar to Robyn repeatedly urging Cody to reconcile with others, even when it was clear those relationships were over, likely in hopes that he'd affirm, once again, that Robyn was his only true partner. This pattern fits a broader narrative. Robyn positioning herself as the overly loyal and heartbreakingly devoted wife who simply cared too much. But the inconsistencies in her claims and her selective application of spiritual rules suggest something else entirely. In the end, Christine didn't need to go through the church to validate her decision. She left a broken relationship on her own terms, without permission, ceremony, or Robyn's approval. They told us Robyn was the victim, but here's what they didn't show you.
That he and I started this family. Like, why? Because Robyn was only 10?
Robyn might be cunning, manipulative, and dramatic, but even she has to see what a toxic mess Cody has become.
Robyn came into our family specifically to live plural marriage.
The tears, the porch sob stories, maybe there's a shred of truth in her regret. But really...
Because if one of my little children were to die because somebody had to get his pencil wet...
She's watched him mistreat child after child without batting an eye. If he ever turns that behavior on one of her children, that could be her breaking point.
Because then that's adultery?
Yes.
Still, it's doubtful she'll actually walk away, at least not anytime soon. The real test will come when the cameras stop rolling and the money isn't flowing like it used to. That's when the fairy tale ends, and we'll see whether these two are truly soulmates, or just a pair of opportunists who enjoyed a cushy lifestyle while it lasted.
Get yourself financially independent.
Even then, Cody will likely cling to the illusion of being the provider, content to let Robyn stay home while he pretends to hold things together. And Robyn, she knows it's rare to find someone willing to financially support her doing very little. That comfort alone could be enough to keep her around.
I've been praying about it for 2 years.
Their relationship seems to revolve entirely around that nauseating origin story, how they met at church, how magical it all was. They retell it like it's some sacred script. In reality, they come off as two narcissists locked in a weird feedback loop of mutual admiration and self-delusion. She'll stay until the money's gone and the lavish lifestyle disappears. There's some irony in the fact that Robyn wept about missing her sister wives on the back porch, the huge porch that wraps around her mansion. But did she ever actually invite them to sit there? No, they were relegated to the carport like second-class citizens. That says a lot.
So I always thought that living with a guy full-time would be super boring.
The truth is, Robyn seemed to like the concept of plural marriage, as long as she was on top. She enjoyed taking more than her fair share and acting morally superior while doing it.
Those things he's asking me for now, obedience and whatever.
But now that the other wives have moved on and are doing well without Cody, she's the one stuck with him. If she's having regrets, they probably hit hardest when she's forced to spend every day with the man she once fought so hard to win. If she ever does leave, it won't be until all of her children are grown, and even then, grandchildren could give her another reason to stay. So no, there's little chance she'll leave voluntarily. For Robyn, everything was fine as long as the dysfunction didn't touch her. She was silent when the other wives were pushed aside and their children mistreated, but if Cody ever directs that same cruelty toward her kids, there's no doubt she flipped the narrative fast, maybe even report it. She's always had one rule: she gets to dish it out, but she never has to take it. Here's what no one wants to admit about devoted dads on reality TV.
Hey, you gonna come say hi to me? Have you got a big kiss for me?
Before Robyn entered the family, it appeared that the children had a strong, loving relationship with their father. He was seen as a hero figure. But looking back, that image may have been carefully curated. Not by Cody himself, but by the original wives. It seems they spent years shielding their children from his narcissism, running interference to preserve his image as a devoted father. These women likely made excuses for his behavior, softened the blow of his emotional distance, and went to great lengths to protect their kids from seeing who he really was. They built him up, placing him on a pedestal he didn't earn, perhaps out of a belief that preserving a father figure, any father figure, was better than none at all.
That's just what it comes down to. I think he has a favorite wife.
That facade began to crack with the arrival of Robyn. Her entrance marked a shift. Favoritism became undeniable, and the emotional disparity between households became impossible to ignore. At that point, the original wives appeared to stop protecting Cody's image. They no longer filtered his behavior or disguised his disinterest. The children, now older and more perceptive, began to see him for who he was, without the protective buffer. In contrast,
I love it that Robyn is staying behind.
Robyn continues to manage Cody's image with her children. She maintains the illusion, keeps him elevated, and continues the pattern the other wives abandoned. Unsurprisingly, her children remain the only ones who still seem to view him in a glorified light.
I think with regards to like social distancing and stuff,
this change wasn't only emotional. While it's possible that Cody's behavior worsened over time, It's also likely that the emotional drips he used to give, brief moments of attention or affection, were enough to keep the original wives and children hopeful when the family lived under one roof. Once separated, even those minimal gestures disappeared. The disparity became more visible. The original wives were left emotionally starved, while Robyn's emotional cup overflowed. When this imbalance was pointed out, the response was dismissive, comparing apples to oranges, as though the others were lucky to even have fruit at all.
They're your kids, though.
I know.
They're still young.
But they have animosity. I do not want to talk to a person.
Moreover, some of the children have spoken openly about Cody's off-camera behavior, revealing that what was seen publicly was often a sanitized version of a much harsher reality. Reports of physical roughness and emotional withdrawal make it even clearer how much the original wives were shielding their families from.
Because no one's going to replace your dad. Right. No one.
It must have been surreal for the older children to watch their father grow more distant, while simultaneously witnessing the affection he lavished on Robyn's children, affection they themselves rarely experienced. The contrast was stark and painful, and no longer something the original wives could or would hide. Thanks for spending a little time with me. If it spoke to you, tap like. Let's get to 1,000. I'm Elena. Take care, and ta-ta for now.